Welcome to the Women Living Well After 50 podcast. I'm Sue Loncaric, and I'm passionate about inspiring, motivating, supporting and informing women over 50 to embrace this exciting time of life. Health and wellness in mind, body and spirit are the foundations for living well, but there is so much more to a life well lived. Each week, through conversations with my guests, I'll be presenting topics that will help us all to live well and enjoy life. So join me as we discover new ways to become women living well after 50. Are you ready to start living? What are you waiting for? Let's get started. Menopause. It's the bane of a woman's life, isn't it? And it's something that we all have to go through. Now, my guest today is Barb Hawken, the go-to menopause fitness coach who believes that when it comes to transforming the middle-aged woman's body, making simple tweaks in the kitchen and gym can cause their health to improve and their confidence to soar. Now, Barb has been working and studying nutrition for the past 35 years, but it hasn't always been smooth sailing for her. She's gained and lost 40 pounds 4 times in 7 years. So she put her own health and wellness on the back burner when she became a mother. We can all relate to that, can't we? While taking care of her children. She felt confused, lonely, and unprepared for how her body was changing. So Barb wants women going through similar menopausal journeys to know that they're not alone. And her passion is to teach women what they need to know to help them get their body to a place where they feel strong, sexy and radiant, and most of all, healthy. So let's go and join the conversation, and hopefully we can find some ways that we can start living a healthy life during menopause and feeling good about ourselves. Good morning, Barb. It's lovely to have you join me on the Women Living Well After 50 podcast.
Thank you, Sue, so much. True honor to be here.
Now, we're going to be talking about a topic which I know is very front and center for a lot of women. Menopause and the way our body changes is, can be quite overwhelming for women. And I think the biggest thing to know is that we're not alone. And the good thing is that people are talking about it more. So in the introduction, I've given a little bit about your background, but what I'd like you to do first is just share with the listeners a little bit about your story and your background and how you've come to help women who are going through menopause.
Sure. So I started my fit journey, is what we call it, when I was 16, just kind of hit the bug, and I have stayed the course. I'm 55 now, continuously. And I homeschooled our 4 children, been married 29 years. And during the pandemic, I kind of looked around and saw, because I was going through menopause at the time myself, and I looked around and there weren't a lot of programs, courses, any help for menopausal women. And since I've been in the fitness industry my whole life, I thought, well, I'm just going to start something, at least in my little, realm of Instagram. And so that's what I did. I started my fitness really online training during that time. And now I do high-level one-on-one coaching for women. I also have some groups online, just, to help women, including macro coaching. And now, like you said, it's really kind of exploded, which is a good thing. Seems to be more programs actually worldwide now.
And I was reading your bio, and of course, 4 children, that's a feat in itself. But what I read was that you'd sort of struggled yourself, with weight and different things. And also, like what we all do, put our fitness or our health on the back burner while we're looking after our children. And then we get to the empty nest, and our body starts to change as, perimenopause and menopause kicks in. And so it's time for us to, we've got the time then to really start looking after ourselves. And, there's certain things we can do that can make that menopausal journey a lot easier. So why is it that our body changes so rapidly in midlife?
Yeah, a couple things. So as you head into menopause, and of course it can start in perimenopause, your estrogen drops. And it's a phenomenon also, the midlife gal, for some reason, kind of stops moving so much too. So it's this combination of the drop in estrogen, and then that can make the fat kind of pool, if you notice, around your midsection, your belly. I mean, if you think about all the really, great organs that we have in the midsection, so your body is now protecting it, unfortunately, with fat. And that's what happens. But also the midlife gal has stopped moving, even walking as much as she did when she was a little bit younger. And so that's not a great combination, because your metabolism can slow down, not tremendously, but enough that makes a difference. And it's kind of surprising to women, because they will come onto my programs, they'll say, oh, Barb, I'm eating the same, but I'm gaining weight, or I'm eating the same or less, and and the scale's not changing. I don't understand. And that's what's happening, because they're not moving as much. And as you can imagine, when you go in with this drop in estrogen, you get night sweats, hot flashes, trouble sleeping, and then, oh my goodness, you're so tired in the evening, who feels like even working out? And you can get complacency, a little depression, lots of different symptoms that are quite surprising, because they come on so rapidly for a lot of women.
That's right. I've got a friend who's actually sort of experiencing it now, and she says, oh, she's just a totally different person, and she sort of has a warning sign on her sometimes with the, if she's thinking she's going to be in a mood or something. And it is an unsettling time. And I think we also start to lose our self-confidence as well, because we're not sure what's happening with our body. We don't know how it's going to react. We have those hot flashes, and you might be working in the middle of a meeting or something, and you suddenly feel a hot flash coming on. All of that eats away at your self-confidence, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that really does, because another thing, you're not sure how long it's going to last, this whole ordeal. We tend to ask our moms, or we ask our friends, and my friends, oh, it lasted 12 years. It's like, oh my, that's an eternity, right? I cannot handle hot flashes that long. And so when I first started getting them, I was like, okay, this is not too bad. But like you said, you could be in the middle of a dinner party or a meeting, and it just comes on you so quickly, and it's really tough for a lot of gals.
Yeah. Well, I know for myself, we do need to make changes to remain healthy as we age, and healthy, and there's a lot of things we can do to help us through that menopausal phase and the perimenopause, and of course I'm post-menopause now. But for me, I think one of the biggest things that helped me was exercising. And I actually started running, which not everybody has to do, but I was introduced to running by some younger friends who are old enough to be my daughters, and I truly believe that the running and the other forms of exercise that I was doing helped me physically as well as mentally to cope with the changes that were happening in my body. And so, I know you said it's hard, you don't feel like having a workout and things like that. What I did was just sort of tried to surround myself with people who wanted to work out. And so I would be with them, and we'd help each other through, because it is hard to maintain things on your own, and especially if you're feeling tired, or your body's just not cooperating. So I want to talk about some the things we can do to help us. So exercise, what type of exercise should we be doing in menopause? Because I think the other thing, as you said, we stop because we might have a family or a career, and we get so busy in life that one of the first things to go is the exercise and the working out. So we tend to not really know what's going to be beneficial for us at this point in our life.
Yeah, Sue. So with this drop in estrogen, also a problem is bone density, and it definitely decreases, especially postmenopausal. So strength training really equates to weight bearing exercise is what women should be definitely doing. I would limit HIIT or high intensity training, it's okay to do it, but only 12 minutes, 12 to 15 minutes. A lot of classes worldwide have HIIT classes 45 minutes. It's really just too much. Also, it hinders your longevity. There's lots of studies on that. So the weight bearing exercise technically could be easily as walking. If you are not accustomed to doing any kind of exercise, I recommend walking initially, and then doing some kind of weightlifting, even lightweight dumbbells, but yet progressively lifting heavier to strength train at least 3 days a week is always shown super beneficial, because it's our bone density. We want to prevent osteoporosis because we lose the bone density post-menopause.
So yes, the strength training is very important, and I know myself, I started doing that, and I could really, you know, my body is so much stronger, and I'm standing taller, and it's, you know, the bones are just being protected because I'm doing that. But there is a little place for cardio, because we need to keep our heart health as well. So what type of cardio would you suggest? Because the HIIT, which is the high intensity interval training, that, as you say, is probably something we shouldn't be looking at. So what could we do from the cardio side?
Yeah, so the HIIT is okay. Even like stair running, if you are quite athletic, or hill sprints, but only for about 12 minutes. That's called zone 5 cardio. So I recommend for all my clients just to walk, believe it or not, because most of my clients are my age, right? And a lot of them have not worked out in a decade. And so the last thing I want them to do is fall and get injured. And, you know, it's so easy. Like you said, you took up running. So that's great. I'm glad that you're not injured, because truthfully, a lot of gals, I say, please don't run. And then they think that the running is going to be better and quicker for them to lose extra fat. And then they end up getting injured in some way. It may be a hamstring, hip flexor, could be a shin splint. And then they can't work out and do the lifting, because lifting weights actually sculpt your body. A lot of my clients, they actually want to change their body, right? And sculpt it and definitely get stronger. So we don't get stronger through cardio. Cardio is okay. And so I only say walking, but all the studies also to prevent heart disease and stroke lead to weightlifting. And so, like I say, if you like cardio, go ahead and yeah, because a lot of gals do like to shave a little bit of fat off as they're eating in, let's say, a calorie deficit, working toward their goals. And so that can help, you know, it definitely can help if they have not been in a calorie deficit before.
So, you know, that's interesting about the strength training, because I don't think many people realize that that can benefit the cardio as well. And walking is something that everybody can do. And I would think that, you know, a good brisk walk is, you know, you can get your heart rate up in that time. So that's going to, and regularly, I suppose the whole thing is, whatever we do, we've got to be consistent in what we're doing.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Cause it really do something daily, because if you think about how we live our life now, really since all the lockdowns, people kind of got used to not moving as much also. And so if the only thing you do, I tell my clients, is just do my program, right, for 45 minutes a day, and then you go back, so many of us work online. And if you're sitting all day, or even if you have an office job, that's not too great. That's not enough. Okay. Because we're always looking for longevity purposes. And so as far as zone 2 cardio, that brisk walking you're talking about, you can walk, but you can't sing. You can't outdo that. It just comes, okay, you're out of time. And that's how you can outdo that. But you literally cannot out train zone 2.
And so actually, you just mentioned your program there. So what sort of program do you provide? Is it a strength training workout, or what is it that you provide your clients?
Yeah, right. So it's one-on-one custom coaching. So it's based around your equipment, either a full gym. Some gals only have dumbbells and bands at home. That's completely fine. Or they have home gyms. And so we design a program specifically for her. Her goals includes macro coaching. I'm a power lifter. And so my personal coach has a master's degree. He writes the programs for my one-to-one gals. We design it together. It's for the menopause gal, but it's just because he has all the advanced anatomy. And it's really important because a lot of the gals, like I said, coming onto my program, just women our age, have taken many years, like I did. I took 8 years off from lifting to homeschool my little kids. And so I was pretty active though the whole time. I was doing, Zumba and Pilates and playing tennis, but I wasn't lifting. So we get gals like me that were working, on their careers or their children. And now in midlife, they want to come back and get, stronger and leaner. And so that's what it's a very high touch coaching. That's program is for them.
Okay, that sounds good. So you mentioned before about the middle and the belly fat. And I know that, from what am I trying to say? Our waist should be a certain circumference or under that for good health and, to avoid chronic illness. But we do, with women, that does tend to settle on the tummy or on the hips. So what can we do about that? Because I know that apart from it affecting, as I keep coming back to that self-confidence, you look at yourself and you think, oh, look at me. And it's hard to overcome that self-criticism. So what can we do? Because I'm sure there are things that we can do to help overcome that, because that belly fat is not healthy and we need to be mindful of that. So, what's your suggestion?
Yeah, so most belly fat isn't unhealthy, but then it's okay. I mean, because I get a lot of clients who, are, like you have said, really self-conscious about that. And, but there are definitely ways. A lot of women have saggy skin also and extra fat. So it really comes down to diet 100%. They say 80-20, if you've heard the 80-20, well, your kitchen, the abs are made in the kitchen 80%. Frankly, at this age, it is closer to 90%, 100%. I mean, it's so vital because of all the seed oils also that we are bombarded with, especially when we eat out, which everybody eats out. All my clients travel, everyone travels. Okay. And every single human being practically, at least in the Western world, eats out, even takeout, that counts. And so we are being bombarded with these seed oils, which causes bloat. So a lot of the fat on women, it's not necessarily fat from, wow, I really ate way too much for 30 years. It's this bloat that kind of layers itself on top of each other. And if they don't know how to prepare meals at home, then every time they're going out, a little bit heavier layer of bloat gets on there. And so what we do is really educate them on eating, non-processed foods, number one, getting rid of all the preservatives, the food dyes, the GMOs, and really kind of being particular when they eat out at restaurants and saying, hey, I can't have seed oils. That, you just do the best you can. And we really work on that. So once we clean up the diet, if you will, even though a lot of gals think that they eat healthy, and a lot of them do, but they're still grabbing snacks. So technically anything in a package is processed. So that's my idea of healthy, is nothing in a package, a can, a jar, nothing frozen. And once we get rid of that and work on those daily actions and that lifestyle, then they see the reduction in the belly, because also they are weight training. So you don't have to do a zillion ab exercises or anything like that. We work on compound movements like squats and deadlifts. Even if it's just band or body weight, it's still that compound movement, very functional because my responsibility is I want all of my gals to be able to move and travel the world 15 years from now, when you're 70, 75, be extremely mobile. And that is it's a big goal of mine for my clients.
Well, I think that's what we all want, you know, to be
Yep.
able to do all of that. And as you get older, you have, you know, you may have grandchildren like I do. I want to be able to keep up with them, and they sort of expect you to be able to do things. My grandson's always saying, "Oh, come and play soccer with me, Nan," or "Come and jump on the trampoline," or "Come and do this," you know, and they just don't think that you're an age.
Right.
So I want to be able to be an active grandparent with them. So it is important. But I also think that, you know, once you start talking about changing your eating habits, and that's what it is really, we've fallen into a habit of whatever's quick and easy and let's just grab it off the shelf. It can be a bit daunting to start overcoming that thought that, oh, you know, if I don't have anything processed, it's going to take me hours to prepare. It's going to be more expensive. It's going to be this or that. So when in actual fact, it's not really that difficult to eat well.
No, but yeah, a lot of clients, they are worried a little bit in the beginning. Some are if they don't understand. So I say, look, just go into the grocery store and stay in the perimeter of the aisle, because that's where all the fresh food is. So get your veggies and your fruit, you know, go to your meats. You can like go in and get your oats and your rice, you know, and your coffee, but that's really it. And then you go on to the butter and the milk, and always eating whole fat food, because if you don't, then you're going to, you know, contend with saggy skin. That's a big thing with women, because we were all raised on non-fat food, right? So we were all, you know, scared to eat any fat. And so the butter and the olive oil and the whole Greek yogurt, the whole fat. And so just teaching them, and some of them adopt the way I eat. I eat the same food every day. It's easy. It's quick. I'm not hours in the kitchen. I don't have to think about it. And then show them how to meal prep. You know, it's not the whole week, because, you know, I want you to eat fresh food. It's okay. I'm going to make a little extra for dinner. Then I'm going to have my lunch tomorrow. I'm going to take it to the office. I'm going to have my yogurt. I might have some nuts, some fruit to get through the day, so that you're not starving when you get home. And then that's you. The reason why you usually snack at night is you are underfed during the day. And so a lot of gals, they get tripped up by intermittent fasting, which is not necessary. Okay. Your body wants the food. Technically, you will fast when you sleep. If you stick to the rule of longevity, which is don't eat 3 hours before you go to bed, because we want, you know, to live long, and it's healthier for us, because when you go to sleep, your brain wakes up and recovers your body. Sleep is very important for recovery. And so by definition, when you wake up in the morning, it's at least been 12 hours since you ate. And if you could then eat, let's say at 9 o'clock, it's probably been 14 hours. Boom, there's your fast. You're not even really intermittent fasting. You're just giving yourself a nice fast. There's no scientific research that says, oh, I have to intermittent fast to lose weight. What happens is women then are so hungry, in my experience, by 6 o'clock, they, you know, eat a big dinner, and then they're still hungry, because most women don't eat nearly enough is what they need to build any kind of muscle. They don't eat enough protein, and they don't eat enough food in general.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And also the fact that about the fats, you know, when you mentioned butter and milk and things like that, and I was thinking, oh gosh, you know, in growing up or something, it was all this anti-fat, and you can't, you know, we reduced fats and everything else, and of course, once you go for something like you know, if it's low in fat on the packaging, this is why you shouldn't probably go for processed food, because it might be low in fat, but they've added sugar or salt or something else in there to make it taste good.
Right.
So it's, you know, if you're cutting down on one, you're increasing something else which isn't good for you. But you know, there are good fats that we should be eating. You know, avocado I think is a good one, and you mentioned the Greek yogurt as well, which is lovely if you have it over some oats, or you make those overnight oats or something like that. Yeah. So and I think you're right in that you say you eat the same thing every day. Probably when you want to start making changes, doing something like that would be beneficial, because you get into that habit and you know exactly what you're going to have, and you just stick to that. And then maybe later on you can become a little bit more creative if you want to. But that would probably help, I think, to start following a more, you know, eating the same thing. Yeah.
It does, because this way I eat out a lot. I go out with my husband, we travel a lot. And so I can basically eat anything I want to when I'm out, right? We can do that. And then knowing that I'm pretty strict, I don't think I'm strict at home. It's just, this is the way I've eaten for about 7 years now, because I used to be an undereater. I was an over exerciser, not cardio. I would just lift, and I wasn't sleeping enough, and I underate. And so my body was not changing and making the changes that I wanted. So once I adopted this diet and really made it my own, my 15 foods, the muscle, and I'm not a large person, but the lean muscle compared to the little bit of fat that I had at the time, it changed my body. I mean, for sure, 100%. Because now I was finally eating enough protein and the correct kind of complex carbs and not the simple carbs.
Yeah. Yeah. And so can you give us an example of what you might have for breakfast, or what would a day be like for you with your eating?
Yeah. So every day I'm kind of addicted to rolled oats. I eat them pretty much every day, maybe a little honey, whole milk, some cinnamon. I also have steak and eggs because I want to try to get about 130 grams of protein each day. I weigh 112. And so that means I need to have my protein, right? I eat about 4 or 5 times a day. So I have protein consistently throughout the day, but I do best, you know, I had a little bit of shredded ribeye today and a couple eggs. Then I'll have Greek yogurt, a mixture of that. Then lunch is always kind of the same. It's some kind of meat. I think I had bison burger today. I had a huge carton of blueberries. Then I had a bunch of chicken. Today is it's a rest day for me. So I will have lower starchy carbs today because I don't need them. We only need those starchy carbs a higher amount on our heavy. Now I work out obviously heavy. And so I only need those around my workout, right? Those starchy carbs, which are usually sweet potato, rice. And then of course I always have the oats. I'm kind of addicted to it in the morning. It just makes me feel good. I just like it because I need carbs. Like we all need our carbs. It just depends on what you're doing activity wise that day.
Yes, yes. And I think, you know, when you're talking about what you're eating and under eating, most of us do, because in my generation, and I'm older than you, obviously, well, I'll be 66 in a couple of months. So that's where I'm sitting. And when I was growing up, you know, there was every diet around. You'd have, you know, you just wouldn't eat this, you wouldn't eat that. You'd be starving yourself. And that's that mindset that we've grown up with. Oh, you know, when you say you should be eating more, your brain sort of says, oh, no, gosh, I can't do that. But if, you know, for example, you eat a lot of protein, and that's quite filling, isn't it? Protein then, you know, it makes you feel fuller for longer. So you're not going to be grabbing for those sugary sweets and snacks as well. But you are eating, what did you say, 4 times a day or something. And, you know, we've got to change our thinking about eating and making it not the enemy, but realizing that it's fueling our body and it's what our body needs.
Yes, yeah, for sure. Even though I try to get my clients to eat more, they are usually always still eating in a deficit, but they're closer to maintenance. And then finally, they will actually start losing weight. And yet, because they've been under eating for so long that they will stall and they won't lose weight anymore.
Yeah, yeah. But as you say, if they've been living that way, it's very hard to change your mindset to be, you know, to do that. And that's where someone like you comes in to help with the coaching and you know, the advice. So probably I think the other thing I'm always feeling is that we need to be informed about our bodies. We need to be informed about what we're doing. And if we do, like someone might say, well, I don't know what macros are, or I don't know what this is, or how much protein should I have? You know, either talk to a coach or just make sure you're informed, because there's so much information out there, but it's not necessarily always good information either.
That is right. And then you just remember that all nutrition is really very individual to the person. You can't just go on one plan because it worked for Susie down the street. It's not going to work. What is your blood? What are your hormone levels? Are you on bioidenticals? Are you not? You know, a lot. Are you stressed? So much goes in. Food is fuel, and it's also medicine, or it can be very detrimental to you. So yeah, your coach really needs to know a full background and what's happening in your life, how much sleep do you get. It's really important.
Mm-hmm. And talking about sleep, you know, when we're going through menopause, our hormones are all over the place. So, you know, how do they affect our sleep and our weight loss and our moods? You know, what's the role that hormones play there?
Well, the sleep is, you know, even in the, let's say, fitness world, sleep is even better than actual working out. It's so vitally important. And so when you, again, lose the estrogen and the progesterone and everything, all your hormones are decreasing, then that's the night sweats. So you're waking up so hot and sweaty in the night. And a lot of gals just, I mean, I couldn't, when I first started doing that, I couldn't get back to sleep. So that affects everything. You're not going to be able to lose weight. You're so groggy. You're not going to be able to work out very effectively because you're just so sleep deprived. That is a big thing. Or you just wake up randomly in the middle of the night. So it's really important to have your bedroom a few degrees cooler than the rest of the house. So when you go in there at night, a lot of gals forget that. And it's just really important to have that. Turn off all the blue light, meaning computers, your phone, 2 hours before you go to bed. It's harder than, you know, I can just say that so easily, right? But it's very difficult to do, right? Very difficult to do. But that, because your brain knows that light has been there, even Wi-Fi in your room, you know, you shouldn't have it on. Again, easier said than done. So there are things, really tough to do if you decide not to go on bioidenticals. It could be many years just kind of really fighting the natural way, if you will, because your body, yes, will get down to very low, I mean, natural, right? Very low, naturally low hormone levels, and you will function. You might not have the best energy in the world, especially at night, but your body does get used to that.
Mm, mm. And so, in terms of hormone replacement therapy, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, it's probably all different to when you know, we always have medical advances and things like that. But I know I didn't take any because at the time they were suggesting that there could be a link to breast cancer, and of course I have a family history of that, so I didn't really take anything for when you know, for the symptoms. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, Premarin was pretty terrible, and the testing that they did was awful. It's a botched. Dr. Peter Attia calls it the worst medical disaster in history, especially for women, because they put postmenopausal women that were 60 on the Premarin, women that smoked, obese women. It was awful. So yeah, luckily we don't have Premarin. So I did a lot of research on this for about 3 years. I'm really big into research scientifically. I don't really go on the opinions of, let's say, girlfriends, because I really want to know what the research. Asked all my doctors. I have 3 doctors because I really didn't know, right? This, because it, like you said, am I going to get breast cancer? Was my mom on it? Now my mom has dementia. So I asked her about it. She could kind of remember, and I do remember her being on it a little bit. I actually have a dementia gene. So of course, yes, I am on bioidenticals 100%, because we know, number one, the bioidenticals will help against certain cancers. They do help prevent dementia, also osteoporosis. That's why I live so heavy, is because I am only 112 pounds. I'm really, you know, light. And so I am a great candidate for osteoporosis. So for me personally, yes. And also even a little testosterone, because that is brain food. So everything that I personally do is because of my health. And so it's a very, very personal decision that you shouldn't take lightly. I don't take it lightly. That's why I researched. I did a lot of reading for a few years. My regular GYN is all for it. Now, but he was just for like progesterone and estradiol, and he wasn't really for the testosterone part. And now I have a doctor, you know, we can compound things here in the States, patches. There's just so many different things according to my hormone level and blood work. I'm hypothyroid. What does that mean? You know, because the thyroid is a major, major hormone. It's your pituitary gland. It's your regulator. And so a lot of things go hand in hand with that. And what I'm a big advocate, a lot of women on my programs, their doctors are kind of old school, and they will tell these women that, oh, you don't need that. You don't need any blood work. You're fine. Meanwhile, my husband, who's 63, can go on anything, right? He's a man, middle-aged man. He can get any test, anything. And so I've learned to be an advocate because I have 2 children with health, you know, major health issues since they were babies. And so doctors told me that I would be their biggest advocate. Little did I know, now I'm an advocate for women just to speak up. I'm not telling you to do something. It's just you have a right to know what your blood work is. You know, your vitamin D. I was talking to DMing a past client today. She was on one of my programs, back and forth in DMs because she was going to her doctor. And she goes, I really want to get this right, Barb, you know, to talk to them. And I said, because her doctor wanted to know why she wanted blood work. And I said, it's called a complete blood panel. It's what you have to say. And a hormone panel. Yes, you're in menopause. You're just wondering, am I in menopause? You know, they can tell you by your blood. And also, what is your thyroid doing? What about vitamin D? You know, these are not just sexual hormones because they all work together. So when your sexual hormones are low, that means, you know, your other hormones are not balanced very technically. And so again, lots of questions I would be asking and looking at scientific journals worldwide. I would not only look in the States, but I also out of Australia and Britain, I was reading scientific journals because all these nations and also the Netherlands, they have really great research.
Yeah. And I think, as I said before, we need to be informed. I was interviewed actually as part of a number of women last year about menopause and the medical profession, because a lot of women here in Australia, and I'm sure it's the same in the States and everywhere, just felt that they were being brushed off by their doctor. And a lot of the doctors were male and they didn't really understand menopause. They just didn't want to know about it. And I think that what we found out of that, you know, discussion was that we have to be our own advocates. We have to be brave enough to say, I want this full blood work. And if that doctor is not doing it for you, or you're not feeling comfortable, you're not getting the answers, you need to find someone that will be listening to you and, you know, taking you seriously, because that was one of the biggest issues that women going through menopause felt. They weren't being heard and they were being shut down if they wanted to ask their medical professional for, you know, some help. So I think your point about being an advocate, well, you're an advocate for yourself and your children and women, you know, you're doing it all. But at least as an individual, we should be able to stand up and say, look, this isn't good enough for me. Whatever you're doing isn't working. Either I find someone else or, you know, I find out more information.
Yeah, definitely.
So we're coming to the end of our discussion. And look, you know, Barb, it comes back time and time again, strength training. You know, and people of my generation probably wouldn't have even known what that was way back when. And we don't come to it till later, so we don't understand it all. We think, oh, we're going to end up like Arnold Schwarzenegger, or you've got to be, you know, power lifting and all that sort of thing. But it does seem to come back to that. It's so important that I think, you know, I get that message from a number of women that I've interviewed. And I think that finally the message is maybe getting out there that it's so important for our health and well-being. Now, before we go, I do have one question I ask all of my guests, but I just wondered if there was anything else that we hadn't covered that you wanted to mention. I will be putting all the details for you in the show notes so that people can contact you. But is there anything else that we haven't covered yet?
I think that's it. You've done a really thorough job asking me a lot of questions, no, about menopause. And because, it's true, there is a lot of confusion, especially perimenopause. I never thought about menopause until I hit menopause, right? I was just living my life. And sure, when I was 43, I noticed the belly, like, uh-oh, this is what my older girlfriends would say. And so, but still, when I was 43, I could do Pilates and kind of tighten it up, that sort of thing, and do extra until I hit full-blown menopause. And then I was like, okay, I gotta really, came down to the food then, because I have been working out since I was 47, when I took 8 years off before that, homeschool my littles. And when I was 47, I decided to get my body back in shape, which I did. It took me a little over a year because I was under eating. I could have done a lot less time. But so I was kind of prepared for menopause, even though I had no idea that it was coming on. I had a test when I was 50 from my GYN. He goes, "Oh no, Barb, your hormones." See, my doctor, really good. He just he sat me down when I was in menopause and said, "We're going to have a hormone talk today." I thought all doctors did that with their clients, patients. Now I know that is not true. He sat me down for 45 minutes in his office, told me all about, he was really excited. He loves bioidenticals for women, because what he said to me was, the little old ladies like my mom, who is in the assisted living home, who doesn't want to get on the nice bus to go to the theater and to do things. The women that are at home and don't want to do anything, those are the ones that weren't on hormones. That's like my mom. She was on hormones for just a tiny little bit. The women that are continuously on hormones, or who've been on hormones throughout, menopause, those are the ones that are going to the opera, they're going to the shows, they're interacting, they're still playing bridge. That's what my parents did. And I thought, gosh, that it was so clear to me, because that was my mom. Now she has dementia. And so, yeah, that kind of made it for me very clear on what for me. So you've done a super job asking me questions, and yeah, hopefully more women will really be advocates, like you say, for themselves, and just ask questions to their doctors. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe, don't take no, maybe try someone else, get another opinion. Okay, so the question I ask all of my guests is, what does being a woman living well mean to you?
So very personal question. Yeah, for sure. So it's different for me, because I love my life so much. I am a wife, number one, 29 years. So that is my very first job, and the most important thing. And then as a mama. So I've always been technically a homemaker. I just have only been working for 3 years. And so for me, it's all about bearing children. Someone else has asked me that, and it's not super popular anymore today. But for me, being a mother is my greatest joy, and it's a privilege to be able to do that. A lot of young women don't really want to do that. They don't see the need. They don't want to stay home, and that's okay. I blame my generation for instilling that into today's women, because for some reason we wanted to send women off to Ivy League for some reason. So that's me. So I still believe in a very, very traditional household, which I still have. And yeah, I like women to be strong. 100%. That's why I work for strong women in every which way, to have a voice for themselves, but not only that, to really be strong in their exercise. A lot of women don't think that they are strong. And like you had pointed out, they think they might look like Arnold or something, or some heavy duty weightlifter, is kind of saying that those people don't work. I mean, it's not an accident, right? It's many years that the people have been working. And I tell my clients now, because they're afraid to lift heavy because they will get big thighs. And I said, you need to eat and lift heavy like you are trying to get big thighs, because menopause strips your thighs and your upper butt. Those are the first muscles to leave. If you really look at the menopause woman's legs and her body, someone that's not on hormones or doesn't exercise, she's big in the middle and has thick legs. And so if you are not eating enough and lifting heavy enough, that is going to be you. And so Holy Woman is really being able to make those choices and go forth with bravery.
Yeah. And you know what you said, what you were saying about being a homemaker and the joy of being a mother may not be popular, but you know what I love about that is that you are being you. You are living life in your authentic way, which is what works for you. And you know, I think that we've got to be respectful of what everybody wants in life, and that's what being a woman living well to me is. It's living life your way. What feels good to you, what brings you joy, and what fulfills you, and whether that's being a stay-at-home mum or a career person or whatever lights your fire is right for you. And I think that you've homeschooled 4 kids, for goodness sake. Many women would be saying, I can't wait for the kids to go to school, because, and so you're sort of with them 24/7. So that deserves a medal, I must say. But that would also bring extra joy, I think, to you. And you're nurturing young minds, and you're doing a lot of good. So thank you for your answer, and thank you also for being my guest today. It's been lovely chatting to you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode of Women Living Well After 50 and my chat with Barb Hawken about menopause, and a topic that is always front and centre with women. As I said to Barb, coming back to that strength training, it just seems to be popping up everywhere in a lot of interviews that I have. So, it is important for us to maintain strong bodies and do some form of resistance or body weight training to help us to stay strong and to continue to do the things in life that, will help us to remain independent. So that's it for this week. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. And if you have, I'd love a like or comment from you. Love you to share the episode with a friend who will definitely benefit from our topic today. And until next time, I hope that you will live well, enjoy life, and most of all, be a woman living life your way. Bye for now.